بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا ضربتم في الأرض فليس عليكم جناح أن تقصروا من الصلاة إن خفتم أن يفتنكم الذين كفروا إن الكافرين كانوا لكم عدوا مبينا صدق الله العظيم. In Surah An-Nisa, the fourth surah, in verse 101, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions that when you travel in the earth, when you are on a journey, then there is nothing wrong if you shorten your namaz. If you fear that the disbelievers, the non-Muslims, may cause you harm, indeed the disbelievers are your open enemies. Okay? Sadrul Afadil, Maulana Sayyid Na'imuddin Muradabadi Rahmatullahi, one of the great scholars, he mentions here that the verse mentions that, if you fear harm from who? Non-Muslims. But this is not a condition for you to shorten your namaz. So even if you don't fear any harm from disbelievers, even on a normal journey, what do you still do? You shorten your namaz. You do qasr. What do you do? Qasr. Sayyidina Ya'la bin Umayyah radiyallahu anhu asked Hazrat Umar Farooq radiyallahu anhu. He said, we are living in peace, then why do we do qasr, shorten our namaz? Hazrat Umar radiyallahu anhu replied, I also wondered about this, and I asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the same question, and he replied that this is a charity for you from Allah, so accept his charity. Allah. Meaning this is like a favor from Allah. That when you are on a journey, what do? You pray a shortened namaz. You don't pray the full namaz, you pray shorter. And we will learn how. Okay. Sayyidah Aisha Siddiqa radhiyallahu anha has narrated. At first, 2 rakat of Salah were declared fard. After the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated from Makkah Sharif to Medina Sharif, then you know what happened? She says 4 rakat were declared fard. But the Salah during a journey was left at 2. So which 4 rakat is this referring to? 4 rakat farz of Zuhr. Which namaz? 4 rakat. 4 fard of Zuhr. And then 4 fard of Asr. Which ones? Asr. 4 fard of Asr. And then 4 fard of Isha. So these 3 namaz which I've just mentioned, originally what were they? 2 fard. What were they originally these? 2 fard. 2 fard in Makkah Sharif. In Medina Sharif they became 4 fard. But during a journey, they stayed 2 fard. 2 fard. So there's only 3 namazes which are mentioned here. Only 3 namaz which become, instead of 4 fard, how much do you pray in the journey? 2 fard. 2 fard. Which ones are they? The 4 fard of Zuhr, the 4 fard of Asr, and the 4 fard of Isha. You understand? This, what she mentions here, is in Sahih Bukhari. Next, in Sunan Ibn Majah, it is mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ declared 2 rakat fard for the Salah offered during a journey. And he said that this is a complete Salah. It's not incomplete, it is complete. That is, even though apparently 2 rakat were reduced, but the 2 are equal to 4 in terms of reward. Okay? So in a journey, when you pray the 2 fard instead of the 4, they are like you are praying full 4 rakat fard. What is a journey in Shari'ah, in Islamic law? What is a journey? A journey is mentioned in Fatawa Razriyah of Imam Ahmad Raza Khan rahmatullahi alayh. A journey is if you leave your hometown with an intention of traveling 57.5 miles. So what is an Islamic journey? What's classed as a journey? If you leave your hometown, first of all, what do? You have to leave your hometown with what intention? With an intention of traveling 57.5 miles, which is 92 kilometers. How many kilometers? 92. So what are the 2 conditions for becoming a traveler? What's the first condition? That you leave your hometown. And the second condition is with an intention of traveling 57.5 miles or more, 92 kilometers or more. When you travel out of your hometown with this intention, what happens? Then you are classed as a musafir. What are you classed as?
Musafir.
A musafir, a traveler according to the Islamic law. Then the rules change for you. Okay. Then you must shorten your namaz. So if you just have an intention, that I make an intention to travel more than 57.5 miles, okay? Just the intention does not make you a traveler. Until what do you do?
Actually do it.
Actually
Travel.
leave your hometown. What do you actually do?
Leave your hometown.
Yeah. So in fact the rulings of a Shari traveler will apply after he has travelled beyond the populated areas of the town, i.e. the suburbs of the town and the city. Okay. So what does this mean? So if you guys live in Bradford now, you know the houses which are on the edges of the city, just before the motorway starts, or even the country roads, the country lanes, yeah, when you go this way, as soon as the last houses are finished and you're out of the bounds of Bradford, then you become a traveller. As long as you've got an intention to travel how much though? 57.5 miles. What if you do leave the bounds of your hometown, okay, you've gone on the motorway, but you didn't have an intention of travelling 57.5 miles, will you be classed as a traveller then? No. You have to have both. Do you get it? For instance, you've only got an intention to travel 40 miles, or you've only got an intention to travel 50 miles, right? Then even though you have left the bounds of your home city, you are not classed as a traveller. When will you only be classed as a traveller? When you have an intention to travel 57.5 miles or more. And secondly, when you leave the outer bounds of your home city. Okay. To travel beyond the populated areas means that one has travelled past, the final houses of the town, of the city, yeah? Right? Along the route of your travel, even if the populated areas have not ended in the opposite direction. So, it means, in the direction which you are travelling along, what happens? Along that road, the last houses have finished. What's happened? You have travelled out of the city and you've gone beyond the last houses. Okay. Along the road which you are travelling on, you've gone past the last houses, now you're a traveller. To become a Shari traveller, it is not necessary to travel beyond the villages as well, which are joining onto the city, okay? The outskirts of the city. Alright. Similarly, it is also not necessary for him to cross orchards, big gardens and farms which are on the edge. It's not necessary to pass them. What do you have to just pass? The last houses of the city. What do you have to just pass? The last houses. Once you pass them, you're classed as an Islamic traveller, okay? Outside the outskirts of the city, sometimes there are certain areas which are like, it's for a graveyard, or there's like a race course, or like a dumping ground, where there's rubbish, yeah? Or anything like that. If these things are there, then it is necessary to cross them. You all understand? That's if these are joining onto the city. If these things are joining onto the city, then what do you have to do? You have to pass them. But if there's a gap, the last houses, and then there's a gap, and then what comes outside, like a race course, dumping ground, like a playground, like a sports ground or a race course or something like that, a graveyard. But if these things are outside the last houses, they're not joined to the city, they are not
Joined to the city.
Then is it necessary to pass them? No. That means you've already left the city. So they're not classed as being part of the city then. Alright. Now, we've mentioned what intention the person has to have from the place of your city where you're departing, okay? If you depart with an intention of less than 57.5 miles, okay? And upon reaching that place, you intend to travel another place which is also less than 57.5 miles, okay? Then will you become a traveller? No. When do you become a traveller? What is necessary? What intention? To travel more than 57.5 miles. That intention is necessary. Alright. What intention?
57.5 miles.
Yeah. You're leaving the hometown with an intention in mind that you are going to travel more than 57.5 miles. When you leave with that intention and you've left the outskirts of the city, the final houses have disappeared, you've gone out, then you are classed as a Shari traveller. We all understand? Okay. It is also a condition that the traveling person intends to travel 57.5 miles in one go. If he has such an intention that he will do some activities after he has traveled, like let's say 40 miles, yeah, and thereafter he will travel the rest, like 17.5 miles, right? This is not an intention of traveling 57.5 miles continuously. Okay, therefore he would not be deemed as a traveler. So there are two types of hometown. What are there?
Two types of hometown.
Two types of hometown. Number one, Watane Asli. What is it?
Watane Asli.
Your original hometown. This is the town or city where a person is born, or where your family members live, or where you have settled, where you live with the intention of not moving. Do you understand? So what is your original hometown? Where you are
Born.
Or what is it? Where your family lives, or where you've settled, where you live and you have no intention of moving from there. That is your Watane Asli. What is it?
Watane Asli.
Next is Watane Iqamat. What is next?
Watane Iqamat.
Do you know what Watane Iqamat is? This is like a temporary hometown. So guys, listen very carefully. Do you know how you make a temporary hometown? If you stop somewhere after a journey and you make an intention to stay there for 15 days or longer. What intention have you made to stay there?
15 days or longer.
15 days or longer. Then that becomes your temporary hometown. Do you all understand? Okay. Now, one temporary hometown cancels the other. For example, let's just say now, a person leaves Bradford now with the intention of traveling more than 57.5 miles. He's gone on the motorway. Is he a traveler now in Islamic law?
Yeah.
Yes. So now what must he do?
Travel 15.
The 4 rakat fard of Zuhr, the 4 fard of Asr, and the 4 fard of Isha. What must he do for these 3 namaz?
Read them as two.
Read them as 2 fards. Alright. 2 fards Zuhr, 2 fards Asr, 2 fards Isha. Now, he reaches London. When he's reached London, he's still praying Qasr, yeah? Shortening his namaz. But now he makes an intention to stay in London for 15 days or more. What must he do now?
Read the namaz properly.
Does he have to read the namaz in full now?
Yeah.
Yes. Because now London has become his Watane Iqamat. You understand? His temporary hometown is classed as now. So now he has to read namaz in full. So even if you go on holiday somewhere far away, but you go with the intention of staying there for 15 days or longer. If you stay for 2 weeks, bang on, 14 days, then what will you do whilst you're there? Qasr. You read short. You understand? But if you go there with the intention of staying there 15 days or longer, intention imazon, okay, then you must pray your namaz in full. Do you understand? So let's say this person reached London now. That's his Watane Iqamat. He made an intention to stay there for 15 days or longer. So how does he have to read namaz there? Full. Like as if he lives there. It's like a temporary hometown now. Okay. So if a person stayed at a town or city, let's say in London now for 15 days or more, then went to another town. Let's say from London he's gone now to, let's say, Oxford. Okay. He's gone to this city now with the intention of staying there for 15 days or more. Then London is no longer his temporary hometown. What's his temporary hometown now? Oxford. Okay. Now what does he do here? He must pray in full. Do you understand? Okay. And this is regardless of whether or not there is a distance of 57.5 miles between them. It doesn't matter. All that matters here is the person has made an intention to stay there for 15 days or longer. That's all that matters. Okay. If he makes an intention to stay there 15 days or longer, then that's his Watane Iqamat, temporary hometown. You all understand? Similarly, if a person returns to his original hometown, as soon as you return to your original hometown, right, then the temporary hometown is cancelled. You're back to your original hometown. You understand? Okay. Or, if a person is in a temporary hometown, or let's say London, yeah, and what does he do from that temporary hometown? He makes an intention to leave the temporary hometown for a journey of 57.5 miles. So then that temporary hometown is cancelled. What happens?
Cancelled.
How is temporary hometown cancelled? If he leaves it with an intention to travel how much? 57.5 miles. Okay, that's how any hometown is cancelled. How you become a traveller and no longer a resident. A resident is called muqim. Well, all of us now here are muqim. Muqim means a resident, okay? Not travelling. And a musafir is a traveller on safar. You understand? So, what if there are two routes for a journey? One is 57.5 miles and the other journey is shorter. It's like a 50-mile route. So one route, if you go to a certain town, if you go on that road, it's 50 miles away. But if you go on the other road, it is 60. Let's say, so it's more than 57.5. So it's 60 one route and one route is 50. Then what happens? Then the route that one takes will determine whether one becomes a traveller or not. So if you intend to travel along a 50-mile road to the other city, will you become a traveller?
No.
You still have to pray in full. But if you make an intention, you're going on the longer route, which is 60 miles, and then you leave your hometown with that intention of travelling along that 60-mile route, then what do you become when you left your hometown? What do you become then? Traveller. What do you become?
Traveller.
Then you become a Shari'i traveller. Then you must pray short. Do you all understand? Okay. If one took the shorter route, then he's not a traveller. But if he took the longer route, then he would be a traveller. Even though he didn't have any reason, genuine reason to take the longer route, it doesn't matter. As long as you've taken the longer route, you're classed as a Shari'i traveller. How long does a person remain a traveller? A traveller remains a traveller unless he returns to his hometown. So if you've returned to your hometown, then you are no longer a traveller. As soon as you come within the houses, on the boundaries of the city, as soon as you've entered the city, your hometown, automatically you are no longer a traveller. Now you must pray in full. Okay? Right? Or, how long do you no longer remain a traveller if you go to another place and you intend to stay there for 15 days or longer. Then you are no longer a traveller. Okay? This ruling applies when you have travelled more than 57.5 miles. Okay? This ruling will apply if you travel more than 57.5 miles and then you decide to stop at a place for 15 days or more. So listen, you've left your city with the intention of travelling 57.5 miles, yes? But you stop at a town which is only 40 miles away. And then you make an intention to stay there for 15 days or more. Will you be a traveller there? No. Because in order for you to have been a traveller, you must have also have travelled 57.5 miles and then made an intention of staying somewhere 15 days or longer. But from that temporary town to go to another one to become a temporary resident in another town, you have to travel 57.5 more. No. You all understand? Yeah. But the first temporary hometown that you're going to go to, that has to be at least, how much distance? At least 57.5 away from your original hometown. Then the next place that you intend to go after that one, to stay there for 15 days or longer, does that have to be 57.5 miles or more? No, that can even just be a short distance away. But the only requirement for you to be a settler there, a non-traveller, is that you intend to stay there for 15 days or longer. You all understand? Hence, if he intends to return before covering the distance of 57.5 miles, so you haven't even covered 57.5 miles, you've gone out of your city 40 miles, and then you decide to come back. Will you be classed as a traveller then? No. You won't. Alright. Because now you've made an intention to return. You understand? And you haven't even travelled 57.5 miles or more. What if you've gone 60 miles out? You intended to travel 57.5 miles or more. You've gone along 60 miles along the motorway. And now you decide to return to your hometown. Are you still a traveller?
Yeah.
Are you still a traveller?
Yeah.
Yes, because you've done more than 57.5. When will you cease becoming a traveller? When you come back and enter your home city. You all understand? So these are important rulings you all need to understand. Whether a journey has been made for a good purpose or even a bad purpose, a person will still be classed as a traveller. A person will still be classed as a
Traveller.
well done. Rulings for a traveler who stays somewhere for a few days. So if a traveler goes somewhere and stays there for a few days or even 13 or 14 days with the intention of doing some work or waiting for his relatives or returning after doing work, he will still be a traveler and he will still offer shortened namaz. Even if many years pass in this condition, even if he stays at a new place for 15 days or more. So for example, you've traveled to another town. It's more than 57.5 miles away, yeah? So you've gone to London, but do you know what? You intend to stay there only for a week longer. You say, I'm going to go back in a week. So are you still a traveler?
Yeah.
Yes, because you're not intending to stay there for 15 days or more. You say, I'm just going to stay here for a week and then I'm going to go back. And then do you know what happens?
You stay for longer.
You stay for another week. Then you say, I'm going to only stay for one more week. I'm going to only stay for one more week. I'm only going to stay for one more week. Even if you carried on like that for years, you will still be classed as a traveler. Alright. When will you cease to remain a traveler? If you make an intention that now I'm going to stay here for 15 days or longer. You all understand? So it's down to your intention, how long you intend to stay in that new place for. If you intend to stay in that new place for 15 days or longer, then you are no longer a traveler. Then you must pray your Salah in full. Do you all understand?
Yeah.
Women's journey. It is not allowed for a woman to travel more than 57.5 miles without a mahram. What is a mahram? Without her husband. She can't go that far. Or she can go with her son, or her brother, or her dad, or her nephew, or uncle. Okay? And they have to be baligh, age of puberty. They can't be children. She can't travel with a male relative who is a child. It has to be an adult, a grown-up. Okay? Now, she cannot travel with a child, and she cannot even travel with a partially insane person, someone who's not mentally right. During the journey, she must be accompanied by an adult mahram or her husband. So adult mahram can be father, son, uncle, nephew, or brother. Them 5. Or husband. Without them, she's not allowed to travel. It's haram for a woman to travel on a journey without a mahram. If she is with a reliable mahram, but it's a young boy, like a teenager, close to being baligh, almost adult, yeah? She can still travel with him. He's deemed to be an adult, okay? The accompanying mahram must not be someone who unnecessarily takes risks. Likewise, it must not be someone who is really sinful and wrongdoer. And it should not also be someone who is vulnerable. It has to be someone who she can travel with safely. Do you all understand? If a married woman lives in the house of her in-laws, her husband's house, then her parents' house is no longer her watan asli. It's no longer her original hometown. Her original hometown becomes the hometown of her husband. Okay. So that is if her in-laws' house is more than 57.5 miles away from her family house, her parents' house. Do you get it? More than 57.5 miles away, she's gone there. That has now become her new original hometown. Okay. And she comes to her parents' home back without making the intention of staying there for 15 days. She must offer short namaz. So let me give you an example. There is a woman, right? She's from Bradford. Now she gets married to a man who is from London. What does she do then? From Bradford, she goes, London is more than 57.5 miles. Yes, yeah. It's much more, yeah. So she goes now and she lives in London now with her husband, new house. What is her original hometown now? London. Okay. Then one day she decides to come back to Bradford to visit her parents. If she comes back to Bradford now, to her parents' house, and she only makes a niyat to stay here for like a week, or less than 15 days, what must she do? She must pray the namaz short. She's a traveler. What is she?
Traveler.
Does she, as soon as she comes back to Bradford, does this become like a hometown again? No, it doesn't. It only becomes her hometown if she makes an intention to stay here for 15 days or more, it will not be watan asli, it will be watan iqamat. It won't be her original hometown anymore. It will only be a temporary hometown. How do you make a temporary hometown? When you make an intention of staying there 15 days or longer. Islamically, they shouldn't really. Islamically, they shouldn't really, to be honest. It's happening everywhere now, unfortunately. It's happening everywhere. Girls should really stay with their families. They shouldn't just go, travel unnecessarily. Nowadays, they travel everywhere and anywhere. It's very unfortunate, but they don't care about these Islamic rulings. The Islamic ruling is only they should go with a mahram. You understand? For the husband. So, after marriage, if she has not left the home of her parents and only visits her in-laws temporarily, right? Then her journey will come to an end as soon as she returns to her parents' home. Okay? So meaning, if she hasn't permanently left her parents' home, then that will still be her original hometown. What will it still be? Her original hometown. Now, if a person has made the intention of staying for 15 days or more, but what happens? The condition changes and circumstances change, and now he is not able to stay for 15 days, then this intention is not valid. Okay? So then it's not going to be a temporary hometown for him then. For example, a person travels to perform Hajj, and then he makes an intention to stay in Makkah Sharif for 15 days. Even though the month of Dhul Hijjah has started, is he really going to be able to stay in Makkah for 15 days then? No, because he's going to have to move further and do the actions of Hajj. This intention of his will not count, because he intended to perform Hajj. Okay? And he will certainly go to other places, to Mina and Arafat. So, for him to go to Makkah and make an intention that, oh, I'm going for Hajj, but I make an intention to stay here for 15 days. That intention is not valid. He will still be classed as a traveler. What will he still be classed as? A traveler. He still must pray in short when he's praying alone. Yeah. On the 8th and 9th of Dhul Hijjah, you go to Mina and Arafat. Okay? You perform the actions of Hajj. Therefore, he will not be able to stay for 15 days in the blessed city of Makkah. However, if he makes the intention of staying in Makkah after he returns from Mina, then his intention will be valid, as long as he can really stay in Makkah for 15 days or more. Okay? If it is quite likely that he will depart within 15 days for Medina Sharif or back to his own country, or if his ticket is already saying that, yeah, then he will still remain a traveler. Do you get it, guys? So, you can't just go to a place and say, look, I intend to stay here 15 days or longer. And what does it say on your ticket? On your ticket it says you're going to have to come back within 10 days. Then will you be classed as a temporary resident there then? No. Because your intention is not correct. Do you get it?
Yeah.
How will your intention be correct? Say you've only gone on a one-way ticket. Where have you gone? On the journey on a one-way ticket. So you're able to stay there for as long as you wish. Then you make an intention, I intend to stay in this place for 15 days or longer. Then will that intention be valid? Yes. And then how will you pray namaz there if you're intending to stay there 15 days or longer? Namaz will be prayed in full. You understand?
Yeah.
Because that is your temporary hometown. But remember, it was mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ that this is sadaqah for you, so take it. So when the Prophet ﷺ has told us to take it, it's something which you must do. So what is it? It's wajib. What is it?
Wajib.
It is wajib for a traveler to do qasr in namaz. So the 4 rakat of fard have to be prayed as 2 rakat. For a traveler, these 2 rakat are complete namaz. Which fard? The fard of zuhr, the fard of asr, the fard of isha. Okay? If you prayed 4 rakat intentionally, and you sat for at-tahiyat after 2 rakat, then your fard will count, and your last 2 rakat will be counted as nafal, but you will get gunah. So if you go on a journey, what are you supposed to do? Pray 2, but instead you prayed full 4. You're going to get gunah. Your first 2 are counted as fard, and your last 2 are counted as extra nafal. Right? Therefore you must do tawbah for it. If you didn't sit for at-tahiyat after 2 rakats, then your fard would not get offered at all, and all 4 rakat would be nafil. Like for example, you forgot. You got on a journey, what must you do? The 4 fard, you must pray them as 2. Instead, you pray them as full 4. And you know what else you did? You forgot to sit for the first at-tahiyyat, so you stood directly for the 3rd rakat. What happens in that case is for nafil. Your fard wouldn't even count in that case. You all understand?
Yeah.
However, if you made the intention of staying at a place for 15 days or longer before you perform the sajda of the 3rd rakat, then your fard would be valid. Okay? But you would have to repeat the standing and the ruku of the 3rd rakat. You would have to repeat the standing and the ruku of the 3rd rakat. You can't make the intention during the sajda of the 3rd rakat. You have to have made the intention of being staying there before you go for the 3rd rakat sajda. Alright. If you make the intention of becoming a resident, staying there in the sajda of the 3rd rakat, then your namaz becomes invalid. Okay. Similarly, if you did not do qira'at, recitation, in any or both of the first 2 rakats, your salah will become invalid. You must do qira'at, Quran recitation in the first and second rakat. If a traveler made the niyat of offering 4 rakat fard salah instead of the 2 rakat which are qasr, yeah, by mistake, but he realized this during the salah and he did salam after the first 2 rakat, his salah would be valid. Okay, so you're a traveler and it's time for zuhr. You must, as a traveler, pray 2 fard zuhr, yes? By mistake, you made an intention of praying 4 fard zuhr. And then what did you do? After the first 2 rakat, you completed your namaz. You did salam. Is your namaz valid?
Yes.
Yes. Similarly, if you're a resident, you're not a traveler. Okay? But you're a resident like we are now. Yeah? And what did you do? You made an intention of offering 2 rakat fard qasr. Right? And instead of the 4 complete, but you completed 4 complete rakats. And you did a salam at the end of the 4. Will your salah be valid? Yes. Okay, so in both cases. For a traveler who makes by mistake the niyat of a settler, and for a settler who makes the mistaken niyat of a traveler. Do you get it? As long as in both cases, what does a traveler do? He only prays 2 fard. And what does the settler do? He prays 4 fard. Will the salah of both of them be valid? Yes. The scholars, rahimahumullah ta'ala, have stated, it is not necessary to specify the number of rakat when making the intention for salah. You don't have to say how many rakats you're praying. Do you understand? So, you just make the intention of salah as it is implicit. Alright? Hence, a mistake in the number of rakats does not affect, right? During the intention does not affect the salah. You understand, guys? So if you made an intention of the fard of zuhr or the fard of asr, it doesn't matter how many rakats you intended, like number you mentioned. So does the number matter? No. What matters is that you intended the fard of that time, and it will count. Okay. If you are praying behind someone who is different from you, what's the ruling? I will explain. When offering salah with jama'at, it is also an essential requirement for the follower to know whether the imam is a traveler or resident, so that his act of following the imam can be valid. Okay? It does not matter whether the follower knows at the time of the start of salah or afterwards. Therefore, what the imam should do, so if the imam is a traveler, he should announce it first. Because how much is the traveler going to pray? 2 rakah. If he did not make the announcement at the beginning of salah, he should do it afterwards. Like he's prayed 2, and what is he going to do after his 2 rakat? He's going to give salam. Then he should say, I am a traveler. All those who are not travelers, please complete your salah. You understand? Now, if he has already announced at the beginning, even then he should announce that he's a traveler after the namaz as well, so that those people who were not present at the beginning of the salah, they also become aware. You understand? Like those who came later. If it is obvious that the imam is a traveler, then an announcement after namaz is just mustahab, it's recommended. Okay, do you guys understand? Like for example, you go in a group, there's a group of us, 4 or 5 of us, And we know that the Imam is a traveler. So how many rakats is the Imam going to pray? 2. And what are the followers going to do? If the followers are not travelers, they're going to complete their remaining 2 rakats after the Imam has finished. Okay. When completing the remaining Salah after the Imam, who is a traveler, has made his salam after 2 rakats, what should the followers do for the 3rd and 4th rakat of Fard? Do you guys know? So let's pretend I am a traveler. We're praying Zuhr namaz. You guys are praying namaz behind me, but you're not travelers. How many rakats will I pray? 2 Fard of Zuhr. How many will you lot have to pray? 4, because you lot are residents. Then you know what happens. After I give my salam, after 2 rakats, okay, let's just assume you already know. Then you're going to stand up for the 3rd rakat. And you know what you're going to do in the 3rd rakat? You're not going to recite any Quran. You're just going to stand there quietly and in your mind read Surah Fatiha. Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, up to Waladolleen, Ameen. And then you know the time it takes to recite it, the Fatiha, just wait for that long. But then when you go into Ruku, you say Allahu Akbar, Subhan Rabbil Azim, Subhan Rabbil Ala in Sajda. Yes, you do. And you read the At-Tahiyyat, everything else, normal. But when you stand for the 3rd and 4th rakats, yeah, after the traveler Imam has finished, what do you do in the 3rd and 4th rakats? You stand silently, yeah. Okay, that's the ruling. For as long as it takes normally to recite Fatiha, instead of reciting it. Instead.
One point which we also need to mention is regarding a traveler when he prays behind a resident Imam. Okay, we mentioned what happens when the Imam is a traveler and the followers are resident. Yeah? How they complete their missed rakats when he finishes. On the other hand, if the Imam is a resident and he is going to be praying in full, what is he going to pray? Full. Then what does a traveler do praying behind him? He also prays the full namaz.
Are travelers exempt from praying sunnah salah? During the journey, the sunnats are not shortened. Neither are the witr or any other namaz. The only namaz which is shortened are 3. Which ones? 4 fard of Zuhr become 2 fard. 4 fard of Asr become 2 fard. And 4 fard of Isha become 2 fard. Only these 3 salah are shortened. If the traveler is in a state of fear or worry, right, then he doesn't have to pray his sunnats. Okay? But he is required to pray his sunnats if he is in a state of peace. You understand? So, if you're in a state of panic and you are afraid like you might miss your train or something, or you're in a journey and you're in fear, then do you have to pray your sunnats? No. But what if you're in a normal state? Then you must pray your sunnats like you normally do. Alright? Next. For a traveler who's outside the city, he can offer nafal namaz whilst in a vehicle. Nafal salah can be prayed whilst in a car or a bus or a train or even riding on an animal. How? You pray, you begin Allahu Akbar and recite as normal, and you lower your head slightly for ruku, and then Sami Allahu liman hamidah, yeah, you lift your head up again, and then you lower your head further for sajda. You don't have to do it physically with your hands like some people do. Some people be sat in a car or on a bus or whatever, and they're like putting their hands on the front seat ahead of them. Do you have to do that? No. No, you don't. What do you just have to do? Only lower your head slightly. You lower your head slightly for ruku and lower your head a bit more for sujood. That's it. So, in this condition, you don't have to face the qibla even for nafal. For which namaz is this? For nafal you can pray seated in a car or a bus or whatever. As long as when you are a musafir, when you have become a Shari'i traveler, you know, the one who travels with an intention of more than 57.5 miles. And the traveler must face the direction which the car is traveling in, the vehicle is moving in. Okay? You don't have to face qibla. Facing the qibla is not a condition. Even in the beginning of salah, you don't have to face qibla for this. He is required to face the direction towards which the car is moving and to perform ruku and sujood with gestures. Okay? And what is necessary? That you bend your head more for the sajda than you do for the ruku. This is necessary. Alright. So you only lower your head a little bit for ruku, but you lower your head more for sajda. If there is enough space on a moving vehicle like a train, then you will have to pray your nafal salah whilst facing the qibla as usual. You get it? Like there's a standing area and you're able to stand properly, then you must face the qibla when praying nafal. After a villager has been out of his village, he's left his village, he can also offer nafal salah on a moving vehicle. What's the ruling for moving vehicle? You can pray in whichever direction. You must lower your head lower for the sajda than you do for the ruku, and you can face any direction. Okay. If one began salah outside the city on a vehicle, but then he entered the city while still offering salah, then he can complete his salah until he reaches his house. Okay. So even if you've entered inside your hometown and you're still praying namaz whilst in a car or a bus or a train, you're still allowed to carry on and finish it as normal. Alright? It doesn't like break like because you've entered your home city. It doesn't break. But remember, these rulings are for which type of salah only? Nafal. What are these? What am I talking about here? Nafal salah, not the fard. In a moving vehicle, without any shari reason, one cannot pray fard, nor the sunnah of fajr, nor the witr. So you can't pray any fard, you cannot pray any wajib salah, and you cannot pray any sunnah of fajr in a moving vehicle. Do you all understand? Which salah can you not pray in a moving vehicle? Fard, wajib, and the sunnah of fajr. Why? What did we mention about these when we were talking about qiyam? Well done. Qiyam is fard in these, standing. Alright. So, and you cannot also perform the sajda of tilawat, which is wajib. Okay. Provided the sajda ayat was recited whilst on ground. The wajib salah includes the witr, the promised salah of nazar, the promised salah, right? Or the nafal salah which was broken after being started. If you start a nafal salah and you break it, then to do qaza of it becomes what? Wajib. Did you know that? If you start a nafal roza and you break it, then to do qaza of it becomes wajib. The ruling is what? If you begin a nafal roza and you break it, then to do qaza of the nafal roza is what? Wajib. Because you spoiled it. If you started a nafal namaz and you broke it, then to do qaza of the nafal namaz also becomes wajib. If there is a shari reason, okay, you have a shari excuse, then you can pray the fard, the wajib, and the two sunnah of fajr. Yeah? They should be offered whilst standing and facing the qibla if possible. And if it's not even possible, impossible, then in any possible way. By sitting and with gestures even. Do you all understand? Okay? The salah missed in the state of being a resident. So the namaz which you missed in the state of being a resident, if you have to, the qaza you have to do of it has to be in full. Even if you're doing qaza of it whilst on a journey, yeah. So you missed the 4 fards of Zuhr and the 4 fards of Asr, let's just imagine, of one day, whilst you were resident. Later on you became a traveler, does that mean now you can start praying them as two? No, because you missed them whilst you were a resident. On the other hand, let's say you missed the same salah of Zuhr whilst you were on a journey. When you're doing qaza for them, fard of Zuhr, how much do you have to pray now? 2. Because you missed it whilst in the state of traveling. Another thing you need to understand is, what if you're traveling on an aeroplane and now it's impossible for you to stand and pray salah, for instance. If a person is traveling on an aeroplane and it's impossible for him to pray salah like you normally do, yes? What must a person do in that state? You perform your wudu, and on the aeroplane you will pray your salah whilst seated, and then you lower your head slightly for the ruku and more for the sujood. You understand? Yeah. And then you just do it by an estimation of the time. When your journey has finished and you've reached land, you've landed in the next place, then that salah which you prayed during the journey whilst in the seated manner, then just repeat those salah. Just do qaza of them, salah, when you reach land. Okay? May Allah Azza wa Jal give us the tawfiq to pray salah as we should and pass on the knowledge to others.